AITAH for divorcing my wife after she refused to help me financially in difficult times? Story 1. I 30 am divorcing my wife 30F of 4 years because she did not help me financially when I needed it. I work in a very niche industry and last year or so has been really difficult due to market conditions. Many of my colleagues got laid off and so was I. At the time, I had newly refurnished our home, so I was in debt. My wife also works, but she earned less than me back then. I went to her and asked if she can help me while I search for work. I proposed that we should sell some of the gold that was given to us at the wedding. We live in Turkey, and there is a tradition of giving gold to newlyweds to help them financially. These are meant to be used during difficult times. She rejected the idea and said I do not want to sell my golds. I tried to reason with her by saying closing the debt would greatly help us to have a more stable financials. She refused and told me to sort it out myself somehow. I asked her to at least use some of her savings and I can pay it back. Context here is that I let her save most of her earnings while paying most of the things myself due to women being vulnerable to financial changes more than men here. I wanted her to build her own savings and made sure to help her with the retirement account as well. I asked her to give me some of her savings for debt and I can pay her back once I sort myself out. She refused that too. This period had been extremely difficult for me. I fell into depression and contemplated my choices in life. Funny thing is, everything was going great before this and I thought we would stay together through thick and thin. My older sister helped me to pay the monthly installments during that time, God bless her soul. At the beginning of this year, I found a great job in the same industry and am thrilling right now. I could not look at my wife in the same way after what happened and started divorce talks with a lawyer friend of mine. Last month I let her know my decision and she was served with divorce papers soon after. For her, apparently it was an unexpected thing and she was shocked. She tried to talk me out of it, but I was firm in my decision. Families tend to be involved with each other here, and that was the case for us too. She put families in between as meditators, but I do not want to be married to someone who will not help me during difficult times, especially when I was considering their financial well-being. Most of my family supports my decision, though they would like me to reconsider it if possible. I know every other thing is without a problem, but I cannot get over what happened. AITAH here? First comment. This is what I was wondering. As I understand it, a woman's mehr, the obligatory gift from the groom to the wife as part of the marriage contract, is to protect the wife in case of divorce or widowhood. It also protects her from exploitation as it gives her equity within the marriage. The husband has no rights to the mehr. He shouldn't even ask because to do so is potentially exploitative. There are cultural variations within the Islamic world, so maybe it is different in Turkey. Two things give me pause about Op's reliability as a narrator. First, he says the gold was given to them as a wedding gift. If it was given to them, why does he need his wife's permission to sell it? This makes me think this was the wife's mehr and not a wedding present. He is downplaying the significance of his request. Second, if it was her mehr, then his asking her for it is exploitative. What if his investment failed? Then his wife has lost her backup money. Remember, this is not just ordinary money, it is a religious obligation mandated by the Quran. Without that religious sanction, what is to stop any or every husband from taking control of his wife's money and then abusing or divorcing her? A poor analogy, but think of it like a security deposit for an apartment. You pay it up front and don't get it back until you vacate the premises. You absolutely cannot borrow against it and promise to pay it back later. That defeats the purpose of the security deposit. The wife receives her mehr up front, unfortunately. Now, too many only receive a promise but never get the actual funds and is not supposed to use it until she is in dire need, divorced, widowed. Unfortunately, too many spend it during their marriages and then are left high and dry in the end. This doesn't mean I give the wife a pass. She could, perhaps should, have helped pay down their debt from her savings. He has a right to request that she contribute some of her work income to their debt, especially since the debt was due to refurnishing their home. TL Doctor. Mehr untouchable. Wife's work income, fair game. Second comment. Good for you. I worked my ass off, 40 hours a week at night, to put my first fiancée through grad school and worked on my undergraduate degree during the day. She was supposed to get a job and let me focus on just school, which she would pay for, including graduate school. She graduated but then didn't look for work. Made excuses but said she wanted to work. So I found a job for which she was qualified, got her to send her resume, she was hired. Then within a week she decided she no longer needed me and felt no need to make me whole for the $20,000 that I had spent on both her tuition, paying down her credit card debt, and monthly support so that she could focus entirely on school. She did give me the engagement ring back 5 years later when I called her out on it and paid for one session of my summer school, which was a pittance as I attended an in-state public school, and it was less than $250. though at the time I didn't give it as I had ironically gotten laid off nor long after she got her new job. She said that I spent the money on her because I wanted to. I asked her then, why did I make her agree to pay my way through school, including grad school? She yelled some kind of answer. Make that screamed, her go-to form of communication when one was logical with her in a way that contradicted whatever her argument du jour was. That was over 30 years ago, but I never did really recover from the financial hit. I did finish my degree, but with a double major in English and psychology, grad school would have been needed and I had lost my heart for it. I went back into what I knew, restaurant management. There was once good money in it, but it can require 80 to 100 hours a week and it will wreck your body. Your mind too, if you're not careful. These days they can't work you that many hours, I don't think. Legally they may not have been able to back then, but was pretty normal. I had been doing it for years before I went back to school and only worked 40 to 45. Story 2. AITAH for getting mad my husband only wants me to take our daughters to the pediatrician. We have a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old baby, both girls. The baby obviously has to go to the pediatrician more than our 2-year-old for routine checkups. My husband only went to the pediatrician with one time, and that because I had a C-section and I wasn't ready to drive all the way to the doctor to our baby's 2-week appointments. We both work the same hours, we have the same schedule in fact. Whenever it's time to make a pediatrician appointment for either of our babies, my husband makes me go. He says he doesn't like going to the pediatrician because it's boring and it's a mother's job to take them to the doctor. He also says there are only mothers at the pediatrician office with their children, and he feels weird being there with his daughter because there is no dad there and it's just a women and kids environment. This is true, I go to my kid's pediatrician's office all the time, and I've never seen a dad there before, but that's no excuse for my husband to be a bad example. My husband just complains it's boring, and he wants to relax when he comes back from work, and he doesn't want to be in the waiting room for so long and wasting his rest of his day at a kid's doctor's office. Like, same, I want to relax when I come home from work too, but going to the doctor isn't supposed to be exciting or fun, but we have to be parents and take them. He said, cool, you take them. I'm sick of my husband being the fun dad only. He needs to be a parent. He's a very active father in the household, but when it comes to doctor's appointments and taking our kids to extracurriculars like the Wiggles and Giggles events at the library, he's absent because it's lame and boring, and it's just a bunch of moms and kids there. First comment. NTA, mom of young kids here, 5 and 9, and my husband is always gone and still goes to every appointment he can with us. In fact, we just switched pediatricians for my kids, and the first appointment the doctor walked in and was surprised to see all 4 of us there. He's great about paying attention to our kids, and it's helpful having him there to make sure I don't miss things we want to talk to the doctor about. He went to every baby appointment he could when I was pregnant, and did the same when our kids were tiny babies and even when our son needed to see a specialist for GI issues. We tag team everything from sports and whatnot to managing our household. He's just as much the fun parent and me, and just as much the disciplinarian and not fun parent as me. Your husband has a skewed view of fatherhood if he thinks he gets to skip out on the boring stuff, and frankly the whole taking your kids to the doctor is a woman's job thing is bullshit. Tell that to my husband, who was in the appointment talking to the doctor just as much the other day so we could get the ball rolling on getting our son screened for ADHD, or taking off work early to meet us at urgent care when our daughter had strep, then taking the lead on getting her to take her meds, and finding creative ways to get them into her. The boring stuff is where the real parenting happens, and your kids will grow up to understand just how much of fatherhood he opted out of because he didn't want to deal with boring stuff. I know way too many fathers that do the mom things, and do so happily because they love and support their wives and children. Second comment. 8. NTA, what is it with these man babies? My late father, who was born in 1925, often took me to the doctor events, parties, and other boring things, as my mother, who was a SOM until I went to grade K, also worked, so they split duties. He also did boring things like grocery shopping, all the finances, cleaned, did laundry, and loved to shop for great outfits for mom. He had great taste. My husband was the same way. I had to do more of the after-school stuff due to the nature of his job. It was very hard for him to leave work during the day, but he absolutely did what he could. He hated taking the kids to the doctor's office because it pained him more than me to see them get shots, but he did it anyway. Don't have any more kids with this guy until he steps up his game and acts like a real man,